Juyeon is a hero who defeated the Demon King in another world. Apparently, he had been summoned by the goddess to save her crumbling world. Since he fulfilled the duty he signed up for, she's ready to send him back to his original world. The crazy part is, during the 20 years he spent in this realm, not a single second passed in his own dimension. This means he'll return to the exact moment he was summoned. However, once he's back in his original world, he'll lose all the memories of those 20 years. But don't think the goddess is some tightwad who'll just send him back without properly rewarding him for his deeds. She grants him a fragment of godly power, though she's pretty vague about what it actually means. The only thing she says is a lot of mystical jargon. With barely any explanation, she finally shoves him back into his original world. Since Juyeon has no recollection of his adventures, he wakes up thinking it's just a regular day. He picks up his phone and sees a flood of messages from his manager. Seems like our guy's in a bit of trouble. So, he skips breakfast and rushes through the streets like his life depends on it. Soon enough, he faces the wrath of his fuming manager, who's pissed about his lateness. Juyeon can't do much except keep his head low and take the heat. Anyway, he gets back to work, disillusioned like any corporate slave. This job clearly isn't cutting it, especially when he's struggling to pay overdue rent. He's got to figure out a way to take on multiple part-time jobs just to stay afloat. If only he had been awakened earlier, things could have been different. Just as he's thinking this, plot armor kicks in, and the system window flashes a message in front of him. He's unlocked a unique trait, a broken one, known as Skill Master. Yep, Juyeon is finally awakened. Now here's a bit of background on the whole awakened thing. Awakened people like Juyeon are called users. It's been 5 years since augmented reality, like something out of a fantasy novel, started taking over the world. With fields popping up across the earth, the world has been revolving around the new resources from them. Users are granted the power to conquer and explore fields dominated by monsters. Even menial tasks in these fields can bring in enough money to get by. That's why everyone wants to be a user by profession. Sure, it's a risky life stepping into the unknown, but the rewards are tempting. There's more sweet honey than danger scattered around. Of course, not all users make it big. Some users awaken with top-tier unique traits right away, while others don't get that lucky. At the top of the food chain is the world's #1 ranked user, Muhammad Al. He's the first to hit level 70 and has an SS-grade unique trait called Dragon Speech. One day, Muhammad Al uploaded a video to his official YouTube channel. The title intrigued people, so they clicked in droves. The video showcased an insane display of power that no one could tear their eyes away from. This kind of magic is every mage's dream. Anyone who's read a fantasy novel would recognize it. The spell Muhammad used is called Meteor Rain, a destructive force capable of wiping out countless lives in an instant. Everyone watching this was left speechless. No one ever thought they'd witness such magnificent power. The field Muhammad wiped out in seconds was an A-grade field. Even at level 70, it's nearly impossible to solo an A-rank field. The meteors obliterated everything in their path, including monsters that could easily destroy a city. The sheer power left everyone stunned. But what shocked viewers even more was the final part of the video, where Muhammad threw down an open challenge to all users. The skill he used, SS-grade Meteor Rain, was so powerful that he promised to give a rare artifact, the Elemental Ring, to anyone who could show magic more spectacular than it. The Elemental Ring is the only publicly known SS-grade artifact, and it's the ultimate relic everyone dreams of owning. In a cafeteria, 2 users were chatting about the challenge. They were disappointed that Muhammad had set the bar so high, it felt like no one could possibly reach it. The woman was just annoyed, thinking Muhammad's challenge was a trap. Who could possibly have an SS-grade trait? Even if someone did, they'd never get the Elemental Ring unless Muhammad personally approved of their strength. Given the high bar he had set, the dude had no intention of actually giving away the ring. It was just a flex. The video of his challenge spread like wildfire and became the hottest topic on every news channel. Muhammad's challenge seemed like an impossible feat, one no one could possibly match. That is, until our boy showed up. As Juyeon stood in the field, he casually flicked his finger, and immediately, meteors began descending from the sky, engulfing everything in flames. The meteor shower was so devastating that literally everything was obliterated. After causing such destruction, Juyeon casually gave a thumbs up, silently thanking Muhammad Al for showing him such an amazing skill. Naturally, everyone watching was absolutely boggled. Nationwide keyboard warriors flooded the comment section, reacting to the tragic defeat Muhammad Al had just faced. The biggest question on everyone's mind was, who the heck is this guy? Now time for another round of lore about the whole awakening and unique traits thing. When users awaken, they typically receive one unique trait. A unique trait essentially enhances the effects of certain skills and is often thought of like a class in a game. Some of the most well-known unique traits revealed to the world are: Dragon Speech is at the top, and this trait helps make a mage more powerful than a dragon. The second one is Miracle, a trait capable of granting healing powers, said to even revive the dead. Then comes regeneration. This turns someone into an unstoppable tank who can regrow limbs. Lastly, there is lethal strike that transforms a user into a warrior who can defeat any enemy. But here's the twist. There's no mention anywhere of a trait called Skill Master, which is the one Juyan just happened to awaken. After some deep digging online, he found barely any details on it. When evaluating unique traits, the first thing to consider is the grade. Generally, the higher the grade, the better the effects, and the more subtraits it has. Grades range from F to SS. When Juyan checked his trait, he found it was an unknown EX grade. He then looked at his stats, which were kinda underwhelming to say the least. Naturally, he was bummed to see how low they were. You see, a high-grade trait is supposed to come with a stat boost, so it's kind of strange that Juyan's stats were so low. Barely anyone gets such poor stats with a high-grade trait. He checked his subtraits, and so far, there were only 2. Again, it's rather disappointing, as he had expected more. At this point, Juyan was just confused, with no solid details about his trait. But it seems like he is about to get some clarification soon enough. The next system prompt gave him a tutorial quest, telling him to copy a skill. Once he activates the skill, he would earn 20 SP. However, there's a catch. Copied skills are automatically deleted as soon as midnight strikes. Well, that quest panel was unexpected. What's even more unexpected is the fact that in order to copy someone's skill, he would have to go out into the fields just so he can watch users in action. And that, quite frankly, given his abysmal stats, sounds like suicide mission. Still, he didn't have much of a choice. He needed to find a skill to copy and finish the quest. Then, an idea clicked in his mind. He remembers Muhammad Al, who had demonstrated the Meteor Rain skill. As soon as he watches that broadcast, the system displays all the juicy details about the skill. When the system prompts him to copy the skill, Juyan is shocked. He hadn't expected to be able to simply copy a skill just by watching a video from the comfort of his home. And just like that, Juyan made his way onto all the TV news channels after winning that open challenge. Seeing his face plastered across the news, Muhammad cracks a smile. His secretary, however, isn't sure if giving away the elemental ring like this is such a good idea. It seems that Muhammad isn't thinking much about the ring itself. He is more fascinated by the fact that the skill he had obtained only a few weeks ago was now being used by someone else. The secretary argues that there are plenty of skills similar to Meteor Rain. But Muhammad emphasizes the coincidence. Not only the skill our boy acquired is SS grade, but it also has the exact same name. The secretary is still not convinced, pointing out that they haven't verified that it's actually SS grade. It's possible that this is all a well-staged display of power. Her words fail to sway Muhammad to think otherwise. He is pretty sure that this skill is at least SS grade, with a unique trait to boot. He then suggests she deliver a business card along with the ring, explaining that he wants to practice caution and wouldn't deliver the ring personally. He also expresses his desire to become friends with Juyan in the future and wants this message to be delivered along with the ring. A while later, we find our maniac looping his own uploaded broadcast like it's a new religion. The video's blowing up, and it's only natural the dude starts going bonkers. He's practically drunk on his own hype. While he's busy basking in his fleeting fame, a little girl on the counter is clearly dying for his attention. But bro is way too zoned out to even acknowledge her presence. Eventually, her father snaps. The man is clearly pissed off seeing this particular cashier slacking off on the job. Once Juyan finishes serving the customers, he slumps into his chair and lets out a long, defeated sigh. It seems like he isn't getting jack shit after completing that challenge, let alone SS grade item. Just a few days ago, he was a nobody, useless, invisible, incapable of doing a damn thing. But ever since awakening his trait, he's finally starting to believe in himself a little. If only, just if, he could make enough money to live comfortably forever. Maybe even become as strong as Muhammad Al and bathe in the adoration of the masses. He's still daydreaming when a sudden notification yanks him back. It's a comment coming directly from Muhammad Al under his video. The legend himself just promised to hand Juyan the reward he deserves for winning the challenge. The internet promptly loses its mind. The big cheese finally drops the ball and everyone's losing it. Even Juyan can't believe it. Cut to the next scene, bro is sitting stiff as a board next to a secretary who's here to deliver the promised gift. She even chauffeurs him home in a luxury car like it's totally normal. Dude's still wearing the same expression he had earlier. Half shock, half, what the fuck is my life? Back in his room, Juyan stares at the ring. He still can't tell if this is a dream or a bug in the system. Then the system helpfully displays the stats of the elemental ring. And it's stacked. Every single stat is nuts. Like S-tier loot box levels of crazy. That's when Juyan suddenly snaps back to reality. Now isn't the time to sit around gawking. This ring gives him a fighting chance to start training for real. Hunting in the fields is the only way to grind up his level 1 stats. But there's a catch though. He doesn't even have money for proper armor. Sure, his viral video brought in tons of revenue, but he can't withdraw any of it. Not without verifying his identity. And he really doesn't want to do that. So he sits down, racks his brain, and comes up with a loophole. Instead of risking his life inside a field, he'll just set up shop outside and offer emergency healing services. Healing, after all, is lucrative. Just patching people up at a field entrance earns hundreds of thousands of won. Even the cocky hunters who trash-talk healers wouldn't dare enter without one healer stationed nearby. Juyeon has copied a C-grade healing skill, strong enough to heal fractures, amputations, and status ailments up to F grade. He can earn 200,000 won for fractures. Amputations cost 500,000 won, and status ailments cost 700,000 won. Not bad for a day's work. So the next morning, Juyeon camps outside the D-rank swamp field near Seoul Grand Park. He didn't pick a low-tier spot on purpose. It's just that all the prime locations were already snatched up. With no customers in sight, he scrolls on his phone, while thinking he might bring something fun next time to kill the boredom. At least here, he won't get trampled by monsters. It's a safe zone after all. Or so he thinks. Suddenly, a guy charges toward him at breakneck speed, carrying a severely injured woman. The man is terrifying, like a storm in human form. Juyeon totally freezes up, forgetting to even breathe at that moment. The man growls at him to start healing in a commanding tone. But Juyeon doesn't like his tone one bit. It reminds him of those entitled jerks back at the convenience store, the ones who thought they owned the place. And while this healing skill might not even be his originally, it's C-grade with solid options. No way he's wasting it on some random asshole who can't ask nicely. Bro is about to pop off when the man offers a fat stack of 200,000 won up front. Juyeon immediately switches to customer service mode, with his respect mode activated. Soon enough, regret kicks in when he takes in the sight of that woman's severed arm and feels his guts twist. The man sets the limb in place and demands the healing start. Juyeon forces himself to look. The injury is so gruesome it's like the air itself recoils. He's not even sure if his C-grade healing will be enough. But he can't be so sure without even trying. So he activates Light of Recovery. After serving his customers, Juyeon's back home, sprawled across his bed with his soul half dead. While he made good money, he had to use his healing skill 3 times that drained him dry. Without the elemental ring, it would have been impossible. What worries him more is how that party even got wrecked so bad in the first place. The only conclusion is that fields are dangerous as hell, and he better stay away. Still, he's grateful. At least this job beats rotting behind a counter, dealing with stingy Karens who act like spending 1,000 won gives them a license to scream. Now with this gig, he could probably retire his whole bloodline and chill till the world ends. Since he's got enough cash to survive for a while, it's time to focus on earning SP and finally leveling up. Suddenly, a tutorial quest pops up, telling him to raise the level of the sub-trait, namely passive income. Passive income is one of the key methods for acquiring SP, which is crucial for the growth of his trait, Skill Master. He should also keep in mind that raising the level of his sub-trait, known as passive income, is a top priority for growth. Now Juyeon finally understands why sub-traits also have levels. It turns out that he can harness their potential even more by leveling them up with SP. It takes 100 SP to level up passive income sub-trait. His passive income skill grants him 10 SP after every 24 hours. Funnily enough, if he spends this 100 SP to upgrade his passive income sub-trait, he'll get 100 SP back as a quest completion reward. Basically, it's a win-win situation. Plus, he'll unlock another new sub-trait once the quest is completed. Now, it's a no-brainer that he needs to upgrade his passive income sub-trait. After checking the total SP he has, he realizes he'll need to wait another 3 days to gather enough SP points to complete the quest. During these 3 days, he decides to use his time experimenting by copying new skill combinations and such. Just to sweeten the deal, the room service staff arrives with all the delicious food he ordered. With the spread laid out in front of him, he digs in while watching other users with unique traits. He's especially focused on S-grade or higher skills, the kind that almost only exist in Legends by now. While copying these rare skills is exciting, the sad truth is that they disappear as soon as midnight strikes. To solve this problem, he needs to record all these videos on his phone so he can watch them whenever he wants. He still can't get over how Muhammad Al appeared like an angel out of nowhere, showing off his SS grade skill, which Juyeon then copied. Though, he still needs to figure out how to keep these copied skills for an extended period of time. Perhaps there's a chance he can keep all these skills to himself if he upgrades his trait of Skill Master enough. He then decides to organize all the videos in a playlist, prioritizing which ones to use later and which ones to use right now. He makes sure to add body hardening traits. Another skill is teleportation, which sounds pretty cool. The list goes on, and he adds all the essentials. A while later, after binge watching, he made sure to wipe off all the food as well. He's literally stuffed, with his belly looking like an inflated helium balloon, ready to pop at any moment. He's feeling happy because he's already secured his future by registering as a healer with the user association. With all the skills under his belt, his value as a user is bound to skyrocket. He can hardly wait for the day when all the hot-busted chicks would fall over themselves for him. The next day, as he sits just outside the fields, that injured goddess from a few days ago comes to him to express her gratitude. She's fully healed, showing the full extent of her abilities. But it seems like this jackass doesn't recognize her. When she asks if he actually doesn't remember her, the crazy guy bluntly says no, as if he's never seen her in his life. After all, this goddess of a lady is just too beautiful for someone like him. She then reminds him that a few days ago, her brother brought her here, and he was the one who healed her. Now that she mentions it, Juyeon's memory quickly jogs, and he finally remembers that she's that damsel in distress with the busted hand. He legit thought she was the dude's girlfriend because he spent so much money on her, but turns out she's actually his sister. Moving on, the woman is glad that he finally recalls her, which makes it easier for her to express her gratitude. If it weren't for him, she would have been pushing up daisies by now. She then asks if he's part of any party, to which Juyeon responds with a no for obvious reasons. She follows up with another question, wondering if he is part of some guild. Once again, Juyeon's response is the same. In this case, she invites him to join her party since she needs a temporary healer. Juyeon is startled by the unexpected invitation. Since he's not in the right shape to be in the fields yet, he decides to decline her offer. But the way this goddess is showing off her feminine side, this horny loser can't resist his urges and instantly accepts the proposal. Before their conversation can continue, they're both startled by the ear-piercing growl of an injured man, whining like a bitch he is. His companion is dragging this whiny pussy out of the fields who requires instant healing. Juyeon simply ignores the lady, gets to work, and tends to the injured guy right away. In no time, he gets the man back to his former state, earning a well-deserved fat stash. Let's not forget about the promise he made to the lady to join her party. Since he's racking up enough money as it is, he doesn't feel the need to join her party, especially since his level is too abysmal for roaming in the fields, so he awkwardly declines her offer again. The girl still tries to coax him, revealing they have an S-grade tank and an S-grade mage to back him up. She's pretty confident they can carry him out with no problem at all. Juyeon simply packs up his stuff and is on his way, still declining her proposal. The reason for his rejection is simple. He saw her come out half dead from a D-grade field just a while ago, so there's no way in hell he wants to face the same fate. Of course, he doesn't say this out loud. He knows this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be recruited by such a hottie, but it looks like fate isn't on his side, and he has to reject it even though he doesn't want to. Tears and money are the only things left behind as he runs off. The only thought on his mind is to quickly gather enough money in SP to become a golden spoon mage. Enjoying his new life of luxury, Juyeon discovers that he earned 10 SP points thanks to his passive income effect. Investing his points into upgrading the same skill, he spends 100 SP to unlock an upgrade variant of the passive income. Now he'll get 50 SP for free instead of 10, without even lifting a finger. Talk about living life. With that settled, he checks on the quest reward he gained. It nets him another 100 SP and grants him the ability to inherit the unique trait of whatever skill he copies. Now would be a good time to discuss the specific traits in this world as they represent a player's tendency to use an ability. Normally, the players or the users are allowed to use skills after acquiring them from skill books. That's a strict rule for all, but the potency of every skill differs based on the talent of the user. For example, if your average Joe had no innate traits, his fireball would pale in comparison to someone who has an affinity to flames. Because of this, mastering multiple skills is considered pointless, as without the original talents of the player, the skill is vastly underpowered. The only difference is the skill he copied from Muhammad from the video, but that's because it was the system's way of showing him how things worked. But with his new bestowal ability, any skills he copies will also inherit the traits of the original player. This means his copied skill will match the output of the real one. However, he doesn't get what the word random implies from all of this, so he wants to test out a few things to be certain of how his powers work in detail. For now, he thinks it's a good opportunity to exit his life of being a freelancing healer. Juyeon receives a tutorial quest to hunt down monsters using his copied skill. This way he can level up and upgrade better versions of the same ability. His quest demands that he take down at least 20 monsters, and it's going to net him a total of 200 points for doing so. The sheer timing of it is way too coincidental, to the point our boy is wondering if some god is out there watching him and responding to his every demand. Anyway, since it's a hunting quest, he needs a skill suitable for the use. So he scrolls to a video demonstrating a fire skill and wonders if he should steal that for practice. Bro is out here stealing Sasuke Uchiha's most spammable jutsu. Juyeon doesn't share high expectations and acts like he's trying stuff out for the fun of it. Initiating his copy skill, he obtains an E-ranked fireball. It's a pretty simple skill with a simple cost. Just like the system told him, he also obtained the ignition trait as a byproduct, allowing him access to a greater effect. Yeah, at this point he really thinks he's being watched because he's practically getting stuff for free. Anyway, our boy steps into the sheep farm entrance where the field entrance is located. He observes the dimensional gap and wonders if it is the division between field and reality. Juyeon decided to go all out and purchased equipment just to be safe. Entering the field, he welcomes his new life as a hunter instead of a shitty healer. Meanwhile, Juyeon ends up popular on the forum as the fire psycho who slaughters low-level mobs. They saw him going crazy killing monsters all on his own, so a bunch of greedy losers reached out to him and even tried inviting Juyeon to their guild. Our boy can't help but act nonchalant, reminding them that he's already rejected an offer from a top-tier S-rank baddie, which is hilarious when you remember how he ran away with a face that screamed depression. Also, he doesn't quite remember laughing while hunting down the monsters. Once again, it's quite funny, because in the actual battle, Bro starts giggling his ass off like a villain executing his enemies. Juyeon suddenly remembers that and thinks that his excitement must have clearly gotten the better of him. Defeating the monsters earns him the SP points he needed and also reduces the usage cost of his copy skill. It's a good thing because Juyeon had been looking for something that could help him keep on hunting with the reduced costs. Browsing the community forum, he learns about a raid post about an obsidian bear boss field. From the comments, they're expressing shock at how the fire psycho defeated the obsidian bear without any equipment while still being at a low level. At the same time, Juyeon reflects that he was only able to do that because he spammed fireballs and didn't require much else. An enlightenment hits him like Truck-kun hitting isekai protagonists. Bro remembers that he received a gift from the strongest ranked user, Muhammad, who he is still indebted to for the ring. Let's go back a few days and see what became of the battle against the obsidian bear raid. The boss monster was going ballistic on them, causing the tanks to jump at the front and handle its rage. They wanted the mages to stay safe at the back in the meantime. Since our boy received a quest to defeat the boss monster, he was pretty happy about it, especially with the promise of earning 500 story points. The weird-looking obsidian bear was terrorizing the party, until Juyeon gave its body a gentle tap from a fireball, doing massive amounts of damage. The party leader was shocked, immediately taking notice of the fire mage who acted like it was no big deal. The enraged bear was continuously hit with fireballs until it was knocked down. The rest of the party was shocked, questioning if the fight was over. But to their horror, the obsidian bear roared loudly, unleashing its A-ranked skill which decreased all of their stats. The berserk state is a second state of this boss, despite the fact that they dealt heavy damage to it already. Unfortunately, the players are so weakened because of the debuff that they can barely stand in place. The obsidian bear then focuses its wrath on attacking the group leader, who can barely defend with his sword, while the rest of his team is practically useless under the nerfs. All except for one, that is. The system grants Juyeon an additional quest to copy the boss's skill, and just for this demonstration, he's given a free copy slot to execute it immediately. Thanks to the system's built-in appraisal effect, he can also inspect the monster's skill before copying it. Details of the obsidian bear's roar are presented before his eyes, and he immediately activates the copying effect for it. Juyeon inherits the boss monster's kill, which comes with an added nerf of randomly deleting an aspect of its ability, so it removes the condition requiring 50% health and allows him the full use of the rest of the effects. Juyeon is genuinely baffled that he can use the skill without any costs or conditions in place, making it no different from a hack. Knowing that the skill will be depleted by midnight, he makes use of the opportunity and unleashes his own version of the obsidian bear's roar. Juyeon's usage of the obsidian bear's roar instantly stunlocks all of his companions in a state of decreasing stats. The group suspects that the bear let out another roar when in reality it was actually our boy. Unfortunately, it turns all of their stats to shit, only to reward Juyeon on his own, buffing all of his stats by 9. Now that's a hack. As for the cute-looking bear up ahead, our boy casually walks up to the furry beast, unafraid of anything in his path. Pointing a finger to the heavens with a smirk, this guy creates a blazing, gigantic fireball, and then unleashes its wrath upon the bear that gave them so much trouble. The group is left completely flabbergasted by the sight of Juyeon destroying the obsidian bear. With the defeat of the field boss monster, our boy levels up twice, and also gets to keep the copied skill. But this special occurrence only happened because of the tutorial quest showcasing him that he can copy skills from bosses as well. It rewards him with a total of 700 SP points too, which is amazing. As you can imagine, Juyeon's living the life with his new powers. Shortly after the defeat of the creature, his group roars in celebration, chanting how he looked so cool taking care of the field boss all on his own. The scene reminds our hero of the time when he killed the demon lord in the foreign realm. The system absorbs the obsidian bear's soul and also increases our boy's stats. The whole soul thing is actually new to Juyeon as he'd only heard of it until now. Let's discuss it in detail. Boss monsters are usually 10 levels higher than the level of an average field, which means if someone tries to use a high-level player to kill the boss for them, the field recognizes it and immediately causes the corpse to disappear. With the corpse gone, you can't obtain any valuable drops, which means that smurfing doesn't reward you with shit here. Now, the real reason players actually love to hunt down field bosses basically boils down to one simple fact, and that is, they want a boss item to drop, which happens in our lucky case, as one of the dudes discovers the obsidian bear's drop. Item drops make the player's efforts worth it, and then the corpse of the boss they defeated is also sold for a pretty good price. But aside from that, our boy is geeking out over the fact that his strength stat was boosted. The best part about raid participation is that upon completion of the raid and the defeat of the boss, each of them gets a permanent stat increase. Juyeon's party is heads over heels for our boy for completing the raid so casually. They explicitly state that he's the reason for their victory. The raid leader mentions how he was fully expecting his group to suffer a ton of injuries right after the obsidian bear went berserk, but it's thanks to our boy's efforts that they won't have to worry about that anymore. Interacting with the status window, the party leader inspects the boss item that was dropped. Though it is valuable, it comes with an activation condition, requiring the player to be at least below 30% health, which also means you're going to be standing on your last leg when it comes in handy. Anyway, the raid leader states that the drop items will all be distributed according to the player association's judgment. However, one ugly dude wants to buy the boss item on the spot and is ready to hand over 90% of the value in cash. The party members start murmuring about opportunists who only magically appear whenever the boss item drops. Their only objective is to collect special items, so they're infamously dubbed the boss item hunters. But in this case, since they're giving a fair price, it doesn't seem like a bad thing. However, Juyeon's a bit skeptical and his bullshit detector is going crazy. He doesn't get what these guys are aiming for. Anyway, one of the bodyguards opened the case to reveal the lump of money, confirming that they can process the payment at once. The sheer sight of the sparkling cash turns our boy into a gold digger who suddenly no longer cares about their intentions at all. The scene cuts to Juyeon sitting in the same crappy field like he usually does. Bro is actually suffering through despair because he doesn't even feel satisfied with earning 10 million won. This is because Juyeon has taken a fascination with a special piece of equipment called Rekta's leather armor set. Unfortunately, this thing costs a whopping 63 million in amount, enough to break our boy's heart. After learning that they only had 2 sets of the armor left in stock, Bro left like he's suffering losses or living a poor life, when in reality the dude has expensive taste. Anyway, Juyeon's scheming little mind is concentrated on hunting as much as possible for the time being. He opens the status window to access rewards for his tutorial quest. Luckily for him, he can access the boss's monster skills with this, but even still, the skill itself is risky to use because it requires him to drop below 50% health at least. But that's fine because our boy had a lot more fun abusing his fire skill more than anything. With no customers bothering him at the moment, our boy decided to invest some of the points he saved to buff his stats further. Now, there's a bunch of options available to him. For example, taking the fantasy route, Bro could end up an incredible warrior. However, he isn't in the mood to risk his life so hard in a place where danger is imminent every day. Noticing a shift in his magic power, he spends 500 points to enhance the copy skill, allowing him to gain an additional copy usage per day. This is pretty exciting news for him. The tutorial quest also points out that daily quests are the only surefire path to gain SP points. Receiving a sudden daily quest, he has a simple task of using his copy skill 2 times. It's a fairly easy way to guarantee 80 story points. This also makes our boy curious, because he's unsure what would happen in the case of copying the same skill twice. Watching a video, he decides to copy the Healing Light skill. After acquiring it, he wonders if the trait will be affected or not, so he decides to do the same again, but the system warns him that he has already copied this skill. Ignoring the system, the dude moves forward with it and copies the skill a second time, much to his amazement. Shortly after that, he updates the sign on his board, which now reads that he's going to be selling healing alongside an experience buff of 5% for every 1 million won. This rare offer draws attention from many players as they gather all around. Being the savvy businessman, Bro advertises his offer loud and clear. The people all around are shocked and question his words. After all, an experience point buff is completely unheard of. At first, they think he's a scam artist who'll steal their money and run away. But our boy is just waiting for him to swarm him with the sweet cash he's looking for. Suddenly, one mage comes up to him. She lifts her hood, revealing herself to be the same S-rank baddie from earlier, as she teases him to join their party. Seeing fine shit again, Bro is literally blinded by her mesmerizing looks. He tells her that he's currently aiming to do some business, which causes her to teasingly remark that he's yet to acquire his first customer from the looks of it. That's why she's more than happy to experience his product as his first customers. Juyeon treats them like royalty and requests them to come in. With the activation of his newly acquiring Healing Light ability, he bumps up their combat experience by 5%. Before leaving, she hands him her personal card and number, stating that she'll be expecting his call. They're dying for a good healer, and it seems fine shit over here really has an eye for our boy with how obsessive she is. More importantly, she does him a generous favor by confirming to everyone about the legitimacy of his service. That causes an entire swarm of customers to rush in to get their hands on the same service. Bro is literally feeling filthy rich from people slapping bills on his face. While that is going on, let's go back and check up on Fine Shit and her brother. Her brother is a bit frustrated that she's being obsessive over a dude who doesn't even have equipment. The mage reminds her dear sibling that their party is going to be unstoppable after this. The two of them are already good at playing their own parts, so all they need now is a reliable healer, and then comes the fact that this guy can pull off experience buffs too. That's a jackpot if they can get him in. Even still, her brother has objections since they're dealing with a newbie, but she thinks that's the best part about them noticing him early. Right now, not enough people in the world know about Jiyeon's talents, so it will be best for them to catch him the quickest. Having entered the dungeon, the S-rank mage unleashes her firestorm strike, mowing down a group of warrior lizards. She continues her talk from earlier and has a feeling that someone like Juyeon has a bright future ahead of him as a warrior. With the millions acquired from his hot sale, our boy finally got his armor and is looking fly as hell with that outfit on. At the same time, he's in the mood to swing for passive income instead of direct income. So he plays with the system screen and learns that he can easily acquire 50 to 200 points daily at the default hour. This means that even if he doesn't do anything at all, his SP points will accumulate daily. Our boy is in the middle of calculating the costs of his SP skill required for skill copy level 3, until a bombshell drops on him and he realizes that it's going to cost him a whopping 4,000 points to get to the next level. The good thing? Daily quests give plenty of these points, which means at a set rate of acquiring 200 points a day, he's got to wait about 49 days to get what he wants. But for now, he's interested in raising his stats first, since that takes priority, so Junyun thinks heading for another field battle would be good. Also, he equips his hoodie and recalls that he's publicly known as a healer, so now, he's going to play the part of his hidden identity as a mage, and keep using that. The scene cuts to the field battle, but unfortunately the place is located in a muddy ground, ruining our boy's outfit. The F-rank field known as the Garorim Bay specializes in nullifying attackers and tanks. Junyun wonders if the testing ground is mostly aimed at beginner-level awakeners. Of course, with the addition of a field-level limit, he's out here struggling to collect shitty boss souls. Recalling the warning he read from one of the community members online, Bro thinks shit is going to be fine because nothing happened during the Obsidian Bear raid either. So what could go wrong? Am I right? All our boy wants is to go home. But for the looks of these damn clowns just casually speaking to each other, every single nerve in his body is getting pissed off. One of the dudes comes around to ask if he's really a guy or not. All because he invented his name for the raid participation. It also makes him wonder what became of the female side. Turns out the chicks are getting seduced by a blonde dude who clearly doesn't know the right time and place for these things. At this point, Juyeon really regrets not checking his teammates out properly before coming on this shitty raid. The blonde dude casually tells everyone that they should initiate the briefing session. But at this point, seeing him stick his nose in every girl's business, Juyeon wouldn't be surprised if this guy is dating the whole group. Anyway, the blonde clown expresses that their strategy is simple and doesn't need more explaining, but he'll go over it once more. The boss of this field is called the Mudflat Crab, and has the trait to get faster every time it is stunned with a debuff from the players. That crosses off the mage's debuff effects because it will only make the battle tougher as the boss monster will become stronger. The crab also has some self-inflicted debuffs applied like being injured or bleeding, which means it will get faster with time with too many injuries. The goal is to dismantle the bastard without really giving it many injuries, because after a certain number of injuries, the boss exhibits a special effect. This alerts our boy, until the knight goes back to his flirty self as he flexes how he's already defeated 8 boss monsters like these, so this should be cakewalk too. Anyway, Juyeon assesses the situation and wonders if the crab's ability to gain stats from the debuffs is its very own special skill. This is important information because it basically means a debuff will be considered as a buff, so this skill may come in handy for him. At the same time, he's seriously annoyed by the dating scene going on and wonders if the deadweights in his team will be helpful or not. The field fight kicks off as the blonde warrior goes on to slice and dice the creatures down. You may be wondering at this point that they're really good, but the hilarious fucking part is, they're out here flexing, killing bite-sized little clams and acting high and mighty over it. The party is acting like they're taking down hordes of monsters when it's really just a few clams that could fit in their hands. Even Juyeon is questioning his own sanity being a part of this group who thinks it is doing so much after basically beating level 1 creepy crawlies. The blonde clown's confidence goes out the fudging window when spiky tentacles emerge from the ground, instantly causing this man to retreat away, even though he was so confident about protecting his party and flexing earlier. Since the boss monster in this stage only appears after a set number of creatures have been killed, they're trying to take down as many beasts as possible. So they mow down the centipede-like creatures with a rain of arrows. Juyeon hasn't even done anything so far, and he's kinda happy that they're holding up pretty well. The players here already possess strong skills for an F-rank field, so he's anticipating the main boss monster to just come out already. Well, maybe he spoke too soon because one of the mudflat crab's mouth-like claws emerged from the ground and swallowed a monster whole. The group realizes that the real raid is about to begin with the appearance of the mudflat crab, who appears way larger than some of them expected. Since the boss monster is known for being limited in its movement, they're told to attack it in a linear fashion rather than going left or right. Meanwhile, our boy is pretty astonished observing the crab's actual skill details. He's found himself a jackpot for a unique skill like this. Anyway, right after popping in the field, the boss monster exerted its terror and scared the crap out of these cowards. It's so funny how the crab is capable of changing directions and adjusting its motion, different from what the party's expectations are. Also, from the looks of it, Juyeon judges its special ability to be a permanent passive that increases stats upon more buffs or debuffs being applied. Once again, it makes our boy really excited when he gets to use it on his own. As for the blonde clown, Bro is supposed to be the main tank for his party, and yet he's at the back sitting out of the battle. Judging from his earlier words, Juyeon senses that if they keep on hammering physical attacks, they'll be in trouble because of the self-inflicting debuff of bleeding. The long-range archers from the party are making sure to keep the crab at a distance, while our boy wonders what their strategy really is. Even the crab is questioning what the flip these idiots are doing because clearly none of the attacks are working. The raid process seems tedious and slow, and thanks to the creature's dense shell, they won't be able to penetrate or injure it with just arrows from afar. Seeing the situation call for his presence, the blonde clown acts like a hero who has come to save the day, when clearly he should have stepped in way earlier. Bro then casually asks for a buff from one of the chicks. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that it's not even a real buff. They're just role-playing to increase his morale. If I was Juyeon here, I would probably let the crab murder all of them here. Anyway, our boy waits for their cringe session to end and understands that they're gonna need one powerful attack to beat the monster in one go. To his shock, the blonde clown exhibits a special power that he couldn't have anticipated from a carefree guy like him at all. Apparently it's called Radiant Power, and it's a rank SS skill that applies tons of buffs on the target. Its duration also increases based on the target's personal rank. Juyeon is the happiest he can be, because he's basically struck gold in a shitty F-rank field with the discovery of this new rare skill. Recalling his conversation from the sales lady who was showing him the equipment armor, he learned that many players liked uploading videos to their channels, so their business decided to prepare items like that too. She mansplains the crap out of the technology, and it flies right over my head as well as Juyeon's head. Back to the current scene, it turns out his glasses are special and can record footage of the battle. This would later help him to access the skill anytime he wanted. If he can pair Radiant Power alongside the boss's skill, it's going to result in a beautiful and complementary combination of receiving a ton of buffs and raising his stats. He also learns that the S-rank buff skill is coming from the lady who apparently doesn't even know her own worth. Having been empowered by the buff, the blonde decides that it's time to unleash his abilities. First off though, he asks our boy to hit the boss with some heavy damage attacks. So Juyeon casually whips up a gigantic fireball and deals insane amounts of damage on the crab. And just for the kicker, he's brought out a trump card skill especially for this occasion, which activates as a second part of the fireball effect. With the chant, "Explosion," the guy detonates the same fireball, allowing a chance to increase even more damage. The aftermath of the battle is pretty anticlimactic, as the crab is literally cooked to the point they can feast on it now. As for the blonde, Bro is devastated that Juyeon stole his moment. Acting like the crab is about to pull off some kind of special move, this guy naively rushes towards the crab to finish it off. The hilarious part is that he's swinging his blade against a creature that's already dead, and instead of having the self-awareness to realize he did something cringe, Bro is even proud of himself. If neuroscientists somehow got a hold of his body, they would probably find zero brain activity inside his head. Even the party members' faces tell you about their reactions. They're questioning what the fudge just happened. Anyway, Juyeon notices the sudden change. The skill called Change Resistance from the Mudflat Crab is now officially a part of his arsenal. Now he just needs to return home and use the combined effects of Change Resistance alongside Radiant Power to see what kind of magic he can come up with. With the boss defeated, Bro just wants to go home, when suddenly the entire group starts eyeing down on him. They give him all the credit for having a busted attack skill like that, and are indebted to his efforts to carry the entire team of dead weights. Seeing the attention being focused on Juyan instead of him, the jealous blonde calls them to focus on item distribution instead of wasting time. Bro is at least glad that the chick is still supporting him strongly, until she shatters his heart to a million freaking pieces when she goes to fawn over Juyan just the same. The group is actually fine with handing our boy the biggest share from the field drop because of his contribution alone. While this is happening, one of the agents observes the situation and the monster corpse. He reports the information back to his leader, explaining how there aren't any item drops from the boss this time, so they'll be focusing on the next spot instead. Meanwhile, Hyoju's eyes shift to a different color as she gazes into the sky. Something tells me she's got more mystery to her than we think. In the next scene, our boy defeats a bunch of monsters, clearing the daily quest to reward him 300 points. But all this effort just to get to level 3 has exhausted him quite a bit. Also, he ended up testing the potential of the two skills by merging their effects at the same time. The buffs are incredible and out of this world, but it comes with one glaring problem. Popping open the status window, he reflects that he doesn't have enough copy counts to do anything with the effects. Think of it this way. Since both skills are buff skills, what exactly is he buffing apart from his body when he can't even use more than 2 copy skills at the same time? The answer is nothing, so that's why this combination is useless until he gets his hand on the 3rd copy slot. The tedious process makes him whine because our boy just wants to gather more SP to rank up already. Juyan lays there in a field of silence, hoping some kind of miracle will help grant him a special quest to reward him with more points. The dude doesn't have high hopes when suddenly, the system screen pops out of nowhere with a special tutorial quest for him. The tutorial quest requires him to complete the main quest, and its reward will be a whopping 4,000 SP, which is just the amount required to get to rank 3 of his skill. Even Juyan is startled and wonders what kind of main quest this will be. Suddenly, his face turns to shit with the sky literally summoning a damn island. This is the new field called the Sky Island Kanel, and his main quest is to clear the field. Since it's a special field, it's going to be teeming with monsters, and in this case, they seem to be aerial monsters. The system requires him to clear the special field for the sake of the Earth, because its very existence is a threat to Earth. The appearance of the Sky Island is reported all over the country, alarming the people and the members of the User Association. The Player Association is acting under emergency circumstances. All airport flights have also been suspended, and from the experience of the citizens, the only notable effect is they can't get enough sunlight. As far as the international situation is concerned, more special fields have begun popping all over the world. For example, Japan's special field is unique too. A landmass of half a country's size has bound itself next to Tokyo. But in their case, it's not a sky island, which is why the Koreans think they're having it much worse having to deal with a lack of sunlight too. Meanwhile, our boy realizes that the special field in Japan is even worse. It's a B-class level, and creatures over level 70 are casually toppling Tokyo and unleashing destruction. That means even one monster is comparable to an S-rank warrior. All of a sudden, it's actually the Koreans who have it easy. At least they're not getting destroyed by high-level monsters. Since the existence of special fields poses a great threat to humanity and the Earth, the association has requested official support from the government to raid the problematic fields as soon as possible. A strategy is underway to counteract the Sky Island, and all players joining the raid will be awarded with an incredible bounty for their efforts in clearing the field. Juyan appears chill and realizes that things have taken a worse turn than he expected. While playing around with the system, he tries to look for a loophole that can perhaps give him more SP without doing anything. Bro thinks he's in some kind of gacha game. Picking apart the quest details, he realizes that by the end of the main quest, he'll have more than enough SP to upgrade all of his traits by 1 level each. This actually motivates him even more to help clear the special field. The staff member finally returns to show him the artifact he asked for. Juyan pops open the box and assesses its stats using his appraisal effect from the system. Both the cursed ring and bracelet don't seem to be special. They give you 100 additional mana but with a drawback of taking away strength and agility. It balances it out basically. If Juyan goes for the set, he'll get about 400 additional mana, which will be a great help to him even if his other stats decrease just a bit. He thinks playing with magic is the safest bet, so he's okay with that. At the same time, it makes him wonder if he should purchase some mid-range armor on top of that. So he asks for the price, and what do you know? The lady casually tells him it's going to require 400 million won. The price is so high, but our boy chooses to act cool and professional, walking out like he didn't just suffer a heart attack while wearing the price just now. Anyway, let's jump ahead to the part where Juyan and the other players are waiting at the entrance. Also, he wasn't having fun with the glasses he bought, so he spent some extra cash getting a body cam instead, which makes him wonder why he didn't just go for the body cam right away from the beginning. Like always, it's a good idea to check for community reviews for any warnings. So he checks the forum and learns a bunch of different information from the commenters. It turns out that the field monsters are way more powerful than some of the players expected, causing them to casually get wiped out. It's so concerning, in fact, that the forum administrators posted an official warning to alert the melee warriors to stay out of the battle. Since the monsters are airborne, they can't do shit at all. And since it's a sky island, players are struggling to get proper oxygen supply too. All of these comments only signal bad news to our boy, who realizes they might be dealing with a D-rank field instead of an F-rank one. Anyway, he doesn't care and thinks those cowards are probably overreacting like they always do, until suddenly, he's pulled inside the entrance and teleports to the island. The shift in terrain is actually quite striking and really cool even for our boy's eyes. He also notices that the monsters don't appear to be hyper-aggressive at all, or so his ass thought, because just then he hears a loud scream coming from the air, causing him to turn and look. The aerial monster has gotten a hold of one of the players who is crying his face out because he's terrified. Bro is not having a good day because the monster literally drops him from a noticeable height, killing him immediately. A bunch of these griffin-like creatures start circling him around, but our boy is daring them to come try. He's so ready to cook them with his fireball skill right here, and get him some fried chicken on top of that. But to his astonishment, the monsters didn't even pay attention to him, and instead targeted a tank nearby. Also, the tank in this case is actually the baddie and her brother, who Juyeon recognizes immediately. The monsters unleash their descent, charging down against their shield. But thanks to their shield barrier, they're safe from each attack. This allows the S-rank mage an opportunity to cultivate her Firestorm ability, which she unleashes from a specific part of the shield, engulfing each of the birds with her flames and putting them all down. Our boy is pretty impressed witnessing the insane damage output by her skill, as he wasn't expecting these two to be that strong. The baddie is actually a bit underwhelmed and unimpressed from their experience so far, while her brother reminds her not to let her guard down. Juyeon assesses his options. He acquired a fireball skill already by copying it, so it makes him wonder if he should be greedy enough to copy Firestorm too. The baddie shouts back at her brother, expressing that a healer's presence could have prevented the grievous injuries she endured that time. Also, she deeply regrets being unable to recruit Juyeon and his amazing healing abilities now. In a twist of fate, she sees our boy struggling to swat away a bunch of cute slimes who aren't letting go of his legs. Juyeon experiences an oh shit realization when he sees the baddie and her brother observing him from afar. Yikes, now that has got to be embarrassing as hell. She greets him and asks if their lovely healer is busy. Bro's face shows his sheer depression with the way he just humiliated himself and lost all his aura. The cute little blob monster is captured, saving our boy from his worst boss battle yet. Dude is feeling bad for his expensive shoes, acting like they are $1 million Jordans or something. To say the least, the tank is not impressed by this at all. He's expecting Hyeji, his sister, to have a sane reaction and finally stop getting obsessed over this goofball. But to his shock, the girl is beaming a wide smile, signaling that she's still obsessed with the healer. The mage acts all buddy-buddy with our boy, teasing him that the universe simply wants them to be together in the party at this point. This is a bit of bad news because our boy wanted to solo hunt in this mission, and he can't exactly reveal his powers in front of these two who think he's a healer. The baddie promises him that he's got nothing to worry about as she'll help carry him through the special field. Realizing that he's got little choice now, Bro accepts his fate and thinks he should copy the healing ability again. So he gives her a yes, which makes her really happy. Since he needs to use his copy skill on the healing one, he tells them he'll be back after a bathroom break. But the hilarious part is, Bro doesn't realize there's nothing around to cover his ass. So that excuse does not work at all. This is troublesome because if he can't even watch a video, he can't copy a skill either. He doubles down on his bathroom excuse and is starting to realize that he might be the enemy of his own perception at this point. Sung Jin-woo would probably crap in his pants than ever lose aura in the same situation. A few moments later, the trio is attacked by the same kind of monsters, only this time, they've become smarter in their approach. The bastards are carrying gigantic boulders to crush the barrier shield of the tank. Clearly, Juyeon stands no chance in this battle with his limited use of powers. What's even more concerning is the stampeding rhinos making their way to attack him. Just when Juyeon prepares himself to cast something against them, Hyeji moves forward, casually giving him a wink that she's got this. She uses Firewall, which is another one of her abilities. Not just that, Hyeji activates Fire Rain and Fire Spear too. The combined offensive output of all three defeats all the monsters without giving any trouble at all. By the end of the battle, our boy is left baffled, realizing he doesn't even have to do anything. Impressed by Hyeji's performance, he asks if S-rank players typically have so many skills like her, because that makes him wonder what kind of skill set an X-ranked player would have. Hyeji confirms this to be true, but she also tells him that the skills are learned by purchasing skill books, which is a long way of saying that she bought the skills for a hefty amount. Marching onwards to their next opponent, this one seems to be an aquatic beast. While Hyeji and her brother are dealing with the monster, Our boy looks devastated and sad standing at the back. Bored as hell, Juyeon decides to activate his version of Fireball, which is incredibly large in size, even more than its normal size. He's shocked by the unusual scale of his own attack. As for Heeji, she's on his ass because that Fireball was even stronger than the one she used. Turns out that Juyeon forgot about his overcharge skill test, which increases the damage by a whopping 20% in exchange for mana consumption. Bro tries to play it off casually by saying it's just a defensive skill he learned as a healer. But the baddie isn't buying his excuse and directly asks for his mana amount. Like an expert manipulator, Bro tells her it's a decent amount, when in reality it's a lot for the average healer. Thanks to his mana pool, he can use the same Fireball strike at least 13 more times, which tells you all you need to know about his reserves. However, he doesn't want to be too aggressive as his role is supposed to be of a healer. Anyway, her brother isn't pleased to say the least. The other players are also suspecting of our boy's abilities, which means he's got to play it safe and use his abilities only when required. Speaking of which, a different party is out here killing the cute little slime monsters. Bowl-cut-looking dude wants them to keep focusing on the flying monsters instead. His friend is a bit annoyed that they're busy dealing with these little slime weaklings instead of dealing with the actual threat. So they tell him to go and fight a big monster and die as a prideful player instead. The system announces that the number of deceased monsters in the island has met a specific requirement to summon the boss at last. So the players are expecting to finish it off quickly and end the special field. Or so they thought. Because the dude they're going to be facing up against is a Gigachad called the Lord of the Sky Island. The party members are shocked to see an angelic being descending from the sky, appearing as the most holy existence. But don't take that appearance slightly, because this guy is crazy strong as he activates the Sword of the Heavens, an attack that summons one sword for every monster killed on the island, increases a damage output by 1% for each sword, and also allows other effects as long as he's on the island. This overpowered skill is troublesome because it's an area-based attack, unleashing a barrage of swords upon the players. It also reminds me of Gilgamesh's ability from the Fate franchise. Anyway, Hyeji's brother struggles to defend against hundreds of swords savagely piercing the barrier shield. At least he's protected because the other players are experiencing literal hell against the swords. Even the tank is at his limits. Turns out that even by blocking the sword, you get a debuff inflicted, lowering all of the stats. The debuff has a duration of 10 minutes, which is way too long for their situation. In the meantime, Juyeon steadily heals him and turns his attention to the level 59 boss monster. Almost all of its skills are at level A or higher, and its base stats are powerful too. From the looks of it, Juyeon's face tells you he's got some kind of strategy. But the strategy is pretty funny, because bro literally says they should run the fudge away while they still can. The scene cuts to the commenters on the forum, who are dogpiling on the boss monster for being so damn strong. From the looks of it, he took down 1,000 players all on his own. The same Sky Island has turned into a graveyard, and they all think there's no hope left for anyone with this boss around. The boss monster reappears after a certain amount of time, and different from last time, one of its wings turns to black. But that only goes for his appearance, as the rampaging swords at the same as last time, pouring down on the players like rain. While it is literally raining swords, they now also experience a second debuff, robbing them of their energies. Also, do you guys remember the cute little slime balls from earlier? Yeah, well, maybe it was a good idea to kill them after all. Because these creepy crawlies actually gave birth to bitchless, bug-eyed monsters who slaughtered the players in their weakened state. Seeing the video of the battle, Juyeon finds himself alarmed. Turns out they escaped from their encounter last time, and it turned out to be a smart call based on the boss monster's abilities. Juyeon understands that he doesn't have time to play around, especially with the debuff of the boss monster kicking into effect. He's startled by a sudden call coming from Hyeji, who greets the healer and inquires if he tried raiding the Sky Island a second time after they left. But of course, our boy hasn't since he is unprepared. However, it's not like they can waste time either because the special fields are affecting the entirety of their planet. The worst part is, just like in Japan, the monsters from the Sky Island were beginning to evacuate the island and unleashing their wrath in the cities. This means Seoul is in great trouble, and it will only get worse from here. Hyeji reveals that they've formed a large team to counteract the boss monster specifically, and she's curious if he's going to be joining them or not. This is pleasant news to Juyeon, and so a few days passed. The raid team gathered at the Grand Park, the same location where our boy usually conducts his business. Some of the players gathered here are surprised to see so many big names in the team. They've come here for a meeting to discuss their plans. Seeing the popular hunters becoming a part of his team, Juyeon feels like an imposter among the elite group. Question his worth. Also, he didn't exactly come here with his usual robe, so he wonders if it's going to be okay. Hyeji swipes her hand and calls out for him, which is a breath of fresh air for our boy, who is getting nervous around the strangers. Juyeon points out that he's just a shitty F-rank player, so why does he get to be in a group of elite B-rankers? To that, Hyeji reminds him that he may be an F-rank, but his healing abilities are far superior than that. She assures him that they're gonna need all the help they can get on this mission. Speaking of which, the leader of the raid team finally arrives, appearing before the party. Even Hyeji is excited to see the guy, while Juyeon is astonished to be in the presence of the #1 guild's SS-class warrior, Lee Hye-sung. The leader starts off by suggesting they assess individual abilities of each member before talking about the plan to fight the boss. That's why they're going to be doing a warm-up session for now. Hyeji is pumped and hopes to get her revenge from their previous encounter. Our boy, on the other hand, is shocked. The leader's order may seem pretty cutthroat and straight to the point, but no one dared to object to his words at all. Looking at his back, this man is simping for Hye-sung looking badass as hell. Jumping to the scene of the field battle, Hye-sung casually cuts down a bunch of lizard warriors, impressing Juyeon even more with his talents. He quickly knocks some sense into himself, recalling that his stats are so damn low that acting like Hye-sung would straight up get him killed. The only reason Juyeon has been surviving so far is thanks to the elemental ring amping up his stats. That's how he knows that sticking to magic is going to do him wonders. At the same time, though he lacks experience holding a sword, something about Hye-sung's swings brings him nostalgia and familiarity. However, he doesn't want to be reckless, and expresses that he should give up any thoughts of a physical battle until he can safely increase his stats. He's focused on healing the injured for now. Not only that, combat at this range is critically dangerous. But inside Juyeon's mind, a voice echoes from his past self, the one that defeated the demon lord in the other worlds. Just now, seeing Hye-sung swing his blade with such finesse, his old self reminds him not to waste his precious skills by letting them rot. Staggered and speechless, Juyeon stands in his place, observing Hye-sung's double S-ranked skill, allowing him to absorb the stats of the most recent monster that he kills. The buffs disappear after 5 minutes, and additional stats are added if he kills 10 monsters in a row. It also amplifies magic power and agility by 10%, making this guy a damn force to be reckoned with. All this time, Juyeon had been searching long and hard for a skill that could boost his physical stats. And what do you know? He's finally struck gold with Hye-sung. The esteemed warrior stands over the toppled corpses of the monsters he cut down. Shortly after the defeat of its minions, the boss of the field arrives in the form of a poison lizard called Kinga. The appearance of the boss monster alerts the players. But let's be honest, it's no big deal to Hye-sung, who taps into his limit break special ability, allowing him to jump an entire rank in his offensive output for 60 seconds. With his berserk state, Hye-sung annihilates the boss with a single sword strike before it can even release its first move. The boss is defeated instantly and its soul is absorbed, bumping up the stats of each player. And that's how the raid ended up being cleared without any trouble at all. Hyeji is a bit jealous she didn't get to perform, while her brother thinks she's ungrateful for the hard carry. Also, Juyeon is pleasantly surprised that even without contribution, the participants still end up with rewards. She tells him that actually, it doesn't work that way. It's because of his constant buffing and debuffing that he was able to get the contribution points automatically. For a long time, our boy wondered how healers leveled up so fast, but now he's starting to realize that playing support is actually pretty damn easy. Finished with their little warm-up, Hye-sung turns to them and expresses that he will be in charge of organizing before the rewards are handed out. While he's giving a long explanation, our boy is zoned the heck out, because his attention isn't focused on the boring lecture, but instead an ability called the Catalyst. This skill was obtained as a result of the defeat of the boss. Juyeon wonders if he can apply it to good use, but he doesn't even care about it for the most part. What he cares about is the fancy new skills he obtained, both rated over S rank, and both are incredibly powerful for buffing physical stats. The leader turns his attention to the healers, and questions if our boy is drunk or something with the way he is making that shitty expression. At this point, Juyeon doesn't even care about anything else. He just wants to go home and start experimenting with his new skills. More days passed and the raid party has yet to invade the Sky Island. Juyeon finds himself completely exhausted and prompts to open the status window. At long last, he's acquired 4,000 points, and with this, he'll be able to destroy the boss monster without much trouble. The funniest part is how he actually obtained so many points. Bro had to take out a total of 120 monsters in his daily raids just to get to this level. The quests appear so frequently now that he isn't getting a chance to rest. Regardless, he's still happy that he's getting quests at least, even though he's reduced to a tired mess afterwards. Juyeon jolts up with excitement, prompting the system to upgrade his copy skill to level 3. After spending 4,000, his skill is upgraded at last. Now, in his original plan, he wanted to pair the 2 skills he obtained from the crab raid to buff his physical stats. But with Hye-sung's appearance, our boy now has access to even more absurd skills, which only makes him crave a 4th copy slot to make use of his best skills. Pairing Blood Frenzy, Brilliant Authority and Change Resistance would be freaking overpowered with an attack-based skill. Imagine you're getting 3 overpowered buffs on one attack. That's what Juyan is after, and he thinks by that point, he would surpass the likes of Hyesung too. Though it would have been nice if he had 4 slots, he's going to have to do what he can with the 3 slots available to him for now. So he goes on to copy Fireball, Brilliant Authority, and finally Resistance to Change for the upcoming raid. In the next scene, Juyan confronts a monster with a devilish smile on his face. He knows this bastard is about to get incinerated to pieces with his new buffs. His murder spree in the field was noticeable enough to attract attention from commenters on the forum. He's famous for being known as the psychopath who one-shots everyone with a fireball. One of the footage recorded of Juyan showcases how he expertly managed to lure a field boss far away from the main party. And just as the giant serpent was about to bite him, he released his gigantic fireball, dealing insane amounts of damage with a single burst. His mysterious identity is now a big deal to the people in the forum. Not to mention his impressive speed, to the point that people are wondering if he's really a mage. Focusing his attention to the serpent, Juyan saves a duo by unleashing his fireball attack, and then continues on running for his life when the snake chases after him. But the same happens again, as just a fireball is enough to beat anything in his path. The players are astonished by his approach to knock down the boss's health with continuous chip damage. In the next scene, we pay a visit to the #1 player in the world, Muhammad, who has about an hour and a half to kill in his free time. Muhammad finds himself satisfied reviewing the same video of the mysterious player taking down the mountain snake. His assistant asks if he's worried about the infamous psychopath. Muhammad agrees, and he seems to be full of conviction that this guy is actually Juyan himself. It hasn't even been that long since our boy received the elemental ring from the guy, and more importantly, that ring shouldn't play a part on his stamina at all. So his recent feats are based off of other skills. Watching him fight, Muhammad thinks he's seeing a professional on the battlefield who has a long history of experience in combat. The funny thing is, while he's glazing our boy, Juyan is shitting bricks facing the mountain snake, even though he looks cool in the eyes of other people. Expressing his interest in the Raider Guild, Muhammad inquired for information on them. His assistant explains that many sightings of them have been reported recently. Hearing that, he tasks her with a job of observing both Juyan and the Raider Guild closely, because it's obvious that the world is going to notice him more as time goes by, and Muhammad definitely doesn't want the Raider Guild messing with the guy he considers his friend. Speaking of the Raider Guild, their boss is watching the same video of Juyan taking down the mountain snake under his identity of psychopath. This means the Raider Guild is also keeping a close eye on his activity, so he needs to be careful. Juyan checks the latest social media updates and instantly gets all riled up when he comes across a certain video. His jaw tightens as he grinds his teeth, clearly pissed off because he was the one doing all the grunt work. Yet the ones who uploaded the video are the ones raking in the revenue without lifting a finger. What makes it worse is that there isn't even a single frame in the video where his face shows up, which only fuels his frustration and makes him start questioning whether his right to publicity even exists at this point. That's when a thought hits him like lightning that why not just upload the video himself? Wasting no time, he pulls out his phone thinking about recording the footage with a clear plan in mind. This time he plans to monetize his channel and earn that money himself. He even thinks up the perfect clickbait title to reel in the views. Juyan starts daydreaming about how uploading the footage from this canal raid might just blow up and flood him with tons of views. He even considers the idea of creating an entirely new account just for this, thinking it would be better if people didn't connect him to the always trending and totally infamous psychopath persona he's stuck with. He imagines himself getting rich overnight from the ad money, picturing himself receiving a shiny gold play button just from posting a single video. With a smug grin, he enjoys the fantasy of luxury long before any of it becomes real, but then quickly snaps back to the cold reality in front of him. Now he's left wondering how on earth he's supposed to gather materials in this pitch-black night when he can't even see where he's stepping. Just then, a B-ranked daily quest window suddenly pops up, offering him a list of tasks in exchange for a buff and a random item box. Up until now, Juyan only ever received E or F ranked quests, so seeing one this high catches him completely off guard, and he starts regretting his decision to come here at night, especially after wasting the entire day napping like a lazy bum just because he caught a silly little snake. He begins to consider finishing the quest before his skills reset at midnight, not wanting to miss the chance. While lost in thought, he spots a blue-colored crystal ball lying on the ground and quickly scoops it up without wasting a second. It turns out to be the exact essence the quest window asked him to collect from the special field, which means he only needs 9 more to go. He originally thought he would have to defeat monsters to get those items as drops, but it turns out the quest wants him to search every inch of the field like the essence crystals are playing some annoying game of hide-and-seek with him. He finds the quest more irritating than expected, and if it weren't a B-ranked one, he probably would have already forgotten it even existed, especially considering how much he'd have to run around just to gather these glowing orbs. As Juyeon finally gets himself ready to continue, a sudden ambush from a monster eagle jolts him from behind. The massive bird almost manages to tear through him, but somehow he pulls off a desperate dodge and narrowly saves his guts. The whole dodging part feels a bit off to him though, because he genuinely didn't think he had it in him. That's when it hits him that maybe this is the result of using both his brilliant authority and resistance skill together. Without wasting time, he launches a fireball and incinerates the eagle monster in an instant. The explosion from his attack draws the attention of a few nearby raiders who start wondering who on earth is out here hunting monsters in the middle of the night. Their leader seems fired up and clearly eager to take down Kanal before Lee Hyesung gets the chance to steal the spotlight. When his underlings ask what they should do if other users barge into the raid, he coldly tells them to wipe out anyone who shows up without a second thought and make sure they don't leave alive. Back with Juyeon, he's already done dealing with the monster hunting part of the quest. On top of that, he's managed to collect 9 out of the 10 required essences, making it seem like he just might finish the entire quest well before midnight. He's even survived in the field for over an hour now, which means all he has left to do is find that last glowing essence. Just then he hears a loud noise, and when he turns to check where it came from, he spots a massive angelic monster hovering in the sky. The sight of it starts bugging him since his guild raid is scheduled for tomorrow, and if things keep heading this way, the boss monster might get stolen before they even arrive. The masked raiders begin their assault on the boss monster Kanal, which only adds to his worry as the whole situation spirals out of control. Right at that moment, a new quest gets triggered for him, which now asks him to conquer the F-rank special field. On top of that, another B-ranked sub-quest pops up, ordering him to take down the boss that has invaded Earth and also destroy the special field completely. Juyeon ponders over the contents of both quests while trying to figure out what exactly the word conquer is supposed to mean. Since there are no extra details explaining how much he actually needs to do, he wonders if the quest wants him to capture the monster himself. Taking it as a free bonus opportunity, he decides there is no need to overthink it and just sits back planning to enjoy the chaos from a safe distance. Right then, the masked group successfully manages to bring the winged angelic monster crashing to the ground and immediately announce that this is their chance to finish off the beast and grab the reward. Meanwhile, Juyeon stays seated comfortably on the grass with a relaxed look, enjoying the action like a late-night movie, and learns that the monster has fallen because its health dropped below 50%, which now makes it unable to fly. Not only that, but this moment also signals the start of the third phase of the boss fight where Kanal begins to power up with a massive buff. A sudden gust of wind blows, and our boy shields his eyes from the dust. In that moment, his gaze lands on the last essence he's been searching for. He jumps up to grab it, humming a tune and thinking how easy it was to find. Just as he picks it up, the masked buffoons get knocked over near him. The fallen guys quickly scramble to their feet and notice our boy on the ground. They approach him, asking who he is, then assume he's one of their comrades and urge him to get up quickly, saying they'll need him for the mages. Juyeon stands up with a mask in his hand, wondering who these suspicious guys are and deciding to go along with them for now. As he walks away with them, our boy quietly thanks the guy whose mask he snagged. As he joins the group, his quest system pings, letting him know the quest has been completed, and the B-ranked quest buff gets applied to him. While a user locks blades with the boss and keeps it away from the others, someone quietly bombards it from afar with blazing blue flames. Every raider starts wondering who could possibly be behind such wild magical power, while our boy feels downright grimy about dishing out massive damage from the sidelines and snagging all the loot without ever putting himself at real risk. He's stuck trying to figure out what to do with the ridiculously strong quest buff, since doing too little might make people suspicious, but going all in would throw him straight into the spotlight. Still, he can't deny how much fun it is to absolutely wreck the so-called boss monster with his busted, overpowered stats, though it doesn't take long for the group to catch on once he gets a bit too carried away. Right then, the boss fires off one of its skills, calling in souped-up monsters to the island. As the boss chants the summon spell, griffins and rhinos suddenly pop into existence, forcing the raiders to split their forces and deal with the chaos. A group of clueless outsiders accidentally stumbles onto the scene and starts wondering why a raid is even happening before the announced time, which seriously ticks off the masked guys running the whole thing. As one of the outsiders dares to question them, the masked leader doesn't hesitate for a second before ruthlessly cutting him down, knowing things will spiral fast if their little side operation gets exposed to Heesung. He shouts at all his goons to wipe out every outsider on the spot using whatever means they have, which completely shocks our hero because he didn't expect these lunatics to go as far as flat-out murder. Watching the raiders go absolutely wild on the innocent group, Juyeon figures that running for his life might just be the smartest plan. Right then, Hyesung and his crew roll in to save the day, and our boy immediately realizes he's in deep trouble. The raid leader laughs in Hyesung's face, mocking how his patchwork team can't do a thing and calling him out for crashing their raid like some hero. But the man calmly fires back, saying it's pretty stupid to think he can get away with killing people, let alone stealing a boss. With a grin that screams madness, he tells the psycho that nobody's even going to remember their names, then dives into the group of raiders like they're barely worth noticing. One guy brushes past our hero, casually telling him to move before he starts planning how to get out of this whole disaster. Right after that, the boss begins attacking everyone in sight, and the raiders decide their best shot at landing the final blow is to cripple the rival party by knocking out all their healers first. As chaos erupts all around him, Juyeon starts sweating harder than a league player in a team fight, desperately trying to figure out a way to bring down the boss before everything spirals completely out of control. His thoughts are suddenly cut short as Hyesung charges straight through the meat shields like a killing machine, slicing down anyone in his way. Meanwhile, Hyeji and her brother are busy clearing out the bug monsters when a raider tries to sneak up on her from behind. Just as he's about to strike, blue flames burst around the NPC and incinerate him before he can even land a blow, leaving Hyeji frozen in awe. She turns to look at the robed figure behind the fire, realizing he's the one controlling those graceful yet deadly flames. And when her brother rushes over to check on her, she tells him that the mysterious man actually attacked his own team just to protect her. At the same time, the timer creeps closer and closer to midnight while our hero dodges through Hyesung's party, sprinting like Sonic as he tries to stay alive. The clock finally hits midnight and Juyeon instantly whips out his phone to copy the next skill. Meanwhile, the composed knight is still battling monsters like a total boss. And as that happens, Juyeon activates his new buff and casually points a finger at the enemies, launching a fireball that explodes like a raging volcano and turns the monsters to ash, leaving Hyesung completely speechless. Watching that, the raid leader clicks his tongue in frustration and reluctantly teams up with Juyeon to take out the rest of the trash mobs. Covered in a flood of buffs, Juyeon goes absolutely wild under the effects of his blood frenzy skill that boosts his stats with every kill, and he finally fires off one last scorching fireball at the boss, slamming it into a deep sleep. The blast scorches everything in its path, and the raiders can't help but wonder if that final blow actually did the job. But Juyeon's excitement turns to frustration when he realizes it's not over yet. With a terrifying shift in presence, the boss switches into its final phase. Then, drawing its massive sword, it brings the weapon down with so much power that Hyeji's brother barely manages to block the shockwave using his defensive skill. The impact sends everything and everyone flying like ragdolls, and Juyeon feels a chill crawl down his spine as he thinks he's about to meet his maker. Out of nowhere, an unexpected guy swoops in to save the day, and as Juyeon stares at the guy, completely lost for words, the man casually tells him that he owes him a favor now. No big deal. After getting saved by Hyeji's brother, our guy immediately fires off his fireball skill straight at Kanel, blasting the monster to pieces right in front of Hyesung's face. Kanel goes down, and the pile of loot circling its remains makes it obvious that this was part of a boss system. Hyesung steps up to reclaim the boss system and coldly warns the raiders to step aside without causing trouble. The leader of the raiders, who had been aiming to snag the boss monster for himself, argues back by reminding everyone that nobody in their right mind would underestimate how powerful their mage really is. Meanwhile, Juyeon gets a notification saying that the main quest has been cleared, and he is about to be teleported to the tutorial field where he'll get to pick his rewards. The raider guy stares at him, feeling like Juyeon looks oddly familiar but still can't figure out who he actually is. Just then, our boy casually slides in and grabs the reward from the boss monster. By the time the masked raider finally realizes that the guy in front of him is the infamous psychopath, Juyeon has already snatched the reward with a big grin, proudly claiming that since he was the one who took down the monster, the dropped item obviously belongs to him. The masked guy and Hyesung both rush forward to grab the item, but just before they can reach it, Juyeon's system activates and finishes the teleportation, leaving everyone behind fuming in rage, fully aware they've just been scammed. Once he arrives in the tutorial field, Juyeon starts to wonder if he really did pull off a scam on all of them. Just then, a flood of system notifications explodes in front of him, completely overwhelming our guy. He tries to figure out if these are all just reward alerts, but before he can even start reading them, a tiny fairy suddenly appears and introduces herself as Ego. She explains that she's his official tutorial assistant, and now that he's completed his main quest, it's her job to guide him through the rest of the tutorial. Our boy starts feeling anxious and argues that no one ever mentioned anything about a tutorial assistant, then begins wondering if this might be something exclusive to some event tied to X-level unique traits like his. The tiny Ego fairy politely asks for permission to begin the reward collection process, and once he agrees, she brings up a panel labeled as the choice for a detailed trait upgrade. She goes on to explain that trait upgrades work like second-class evolutions, and using one will enhance a person's current abilities by adding new detailed traits to them. She then reveals the full list of abilities Juyeon currently has and asks him to pick one to upgrade. Our boy begins to think it over and first considers leveling up his unearned income skill, figuring it might boost the SP he earns from attacks, but then realizes he's still way too weak and starts thinking about what could have happened if the raid took place before midnight and his skills hadn't reset. He might not have even stood a chance at defeating Kanal. Taking everything into account, he decides that boosting the number of available skills would be the smartest move right now, so he picks the sample for skill copy and ends up giving it a major upgrade. Even though he feels a bit let down that it gets reduced to 2 parts, the fact that he now has 4 copies available per day lifts his spirits. His eyes light up with excitement as he wonders if there's any chance he might get lucky enough to eventually push that number all the way to 8 copies instead of just 4. Ego then asks if he'd like to check the rest of his unclaimed rewards, and our guy agrees right away. From the random item box, he ends up getting a sword that unleashes fiery explosions. As he ends up with yet another fire attribute item, he gets annoyed by how everything he receives somehow always ties back to fire. And of course, this new sword is no different. Then comes the Skillmaster reward box from the main quest, which finally lifts his mood with the generous amount of SP it grants him. But the surprises don't stop there. He also unlocks an additional reward that adds a new sub-trait to one of his abilities, and this time he gets an extra row of options to choose from. Riding high, he quickly checks the item he got from the boss, feeling fired up to see what kind of loot it turns out to be. Lucky for him, the item turns out to be an SS-grade Kanal's Cursed Necklace, granting him a massive stat boost that leaves him stunned. He starts thinking that if the boss drop is this insane, then the boss skill must have been even more terrifying. Out of curiosity, he checks it, and sure enough, he learns that if the boss's HP had dropped below 10%, the fallen angel would have gotten a full health restore along with a 50% stat increase, making it flat out impossible for Juyeon to take him down alone. That's when he notices his SP has crossed the 20,000 mark, so without wasting time, he starts pumping it into his abilities, beginning with the sample for safety skill. He keeps investing those points one after another, growing stronger and sturdier with every upgrade. And once he's finally done with all of it, he drops flat on the floor, satisfied and exhausted, knowing there's nothing else left to take care of for now. Just as he lies down to catch a break, Ego casually drops the bomb that the real tutorial is only just about to begin. She then asks him if he remembers the final line from the main quest. Juyeon thinks back and vaguely recalls something about the survival of Earth and humanity, so he looks over at the fairy and asks what that was supposed to mean. Ego, without missing a beat, tells him that it basically means his entire world is on the verge of being wiped out by invaders from another dimension. Back on Earth, a squad of soldiers stands firmly at the portal gate to keep watch. After the raid wraps up, Hyesung stands before a sea of reporters and tells them his party took a serious beating from the raiders who swooped in and stole their boss. He adds that at least the boss was taken down, even if those nutjobs managed to escape after landing the final blow. One of the journalists pipes up and asks what the boss dropped, and Hyesung replies that it's definitely something that boosts stats, but the constant nagging for more details starts to grind his nerves, so he turns around and tells the nosy crowd he's got nothing else to say. Kicking back in her apartment, Fire Lady watches the live broadcast on her phone. Her brother casually says that the guy who jumped in to save her would probably be splattered like a pancake by now if he'd faced Hyesung one-on-one. Meanwhile, she's dialing up Juyeon, trying to sniff out the truth about our boy because while the wizard robe might be basic, a fireball powerful enough to one-shot the boss definitely isn't something just anyone can pull off. She completely ignores her brother as the call finally connects, then greets Juyeon with a cheerful hi and straight up asks if he's the mage who saved her during the raid. He tries to shake her off and keep things low-key, but Fire Lady shows she is pretty sharp by pointing out that she recognized him by his gear and pathetic beta male physique. Still playing dumb, he casually tells her that she didn't even show up to the raid in the first place, and apologizes for not being able to help out with such a dangerous mission. He then throws Hyeji and her brother for a complete loop by saying he's been gooning in the bathroom this whole time, and tells them he's hanging up. Back at his place, he finally relaxes a bit, knowing that she probably won't be blowing up his phone again anytime soon. For now, he gets a break from the non-stop calls from his totally out-of-his-league crush, and his mind drifts back to the tutorial world, where that endlessly nagging voice kept popping into his head, constantly reminding him that the world is under threat from monsters invading through other dimensions, and that it's his job to save it. She went on to say that his skill, Master Power, is a uniquely broken ability gifted to him by heavenly beings for the sake of this mission. Still completely clueless about the big picture, he asked her why he was chosen in the first place and whether he had any kind of connection to the divine. But it didn't take long for him to realize he's just a total goofball with absolutely nothing special going on, and the voice simply told him to stop overthinking things. She explained that he's a special user who has already slain countless beasts and earned huge rewards doing so. Then, with a weirdly serious tone, she dropped the truth. He doesn't actually get a choice in any of this. As he asks what she's even rambling about, the voice calmly replies that he's not some big deal or hotshot, but simply happens to carry divine shards as the hero chosen to save the world. And how he decides to use that overpowered skill is entirely up to him. After laying that out, she asks whether he wants to just settle down and abuse his busted skill for easy gains, or take on the heavy responsibility of saving the world for the greater good. In the end, she tells him that being a hero doesn't mean he has to pick the hard road, and the choice is his alone to make. Back in the present, Juyeon thinks that world-saving stuff is way above the mental pay grade of a beta loser like him, and the thought of eating crispy chicken with cold beer after a hot bath gets him way more hyped than any heroic destiny ever could. Meanwhile, back at her place, Hyeji is absolutely thrilled to finally confirm without a doubt that the mysterious robed mage is none other than Juyeon, because everything about him lines up perfectly with their unhinged fire-slinging maniac. Her brother watches her quietly as she insists she can't be completely sure until she meets him face to face. He asks his hot sister why she's obsessing over such a loser like a teenage girl. Pointing at the part that says the mage is S-ranked, she flashes a grin and explains that users like them who fight in S-rank fields could die any time. So if she wants to rise to the top, she needs that psycho mage by her side to get there. That doesn't exactly shock him, and with a tired sigh, he mutters he's sick of dealing with his annoying little sister. He tells her that if she actually wants to live long enough to become number one, maybe she should stop diving headfirst into everything like a mad woman. But she ignores him again and does some quick math, trying to figure out what kind of guy Juyeon really is. She predicts with full confidence that he'll be heading to the D-rank spider cave next, making her brother stare at his sister high on copium. The next day, his expression is dead flat as he watches Hyeji casually chatting with our boy, who's just shown up to sell off his loot. Without missing a beat, she tells him to cut the act and come clean, saying she knows every last inch of him. Juyeon tries to play it cool, insisting he's just a friendly neighborhood healer, and that's all there is to it, but she's clearly not buying it. Watching his sister bully the pathetic excuse for a man, her brother finally lets out a long sigh and raises his hand. He tells Juyeon they need to get going and says he'll pay 500 an hour. He drags him away because he knows better than anyone that trying to change his sister's mind is a complete waste of time. After the two bros put some distance between themselves and her, he casually brings up the favor he owes. So Juyeon brushes his hand off with a sigh and mutters that he's only helping out because they're paying him a fat stack of cash, which instantly makes Hyeji light up. But just before they can set off, Juyeon starts sweating bullets and nervously tells the lady to chill her melons for a bit because he seriously needs to take a massive dump. That earns him a smug grin from Hyeji, who already wrote frequent diarrhea in his personality notes, much to her brother's disbelief and horror. When he returns, the fire lady doesn't hold back and bluntly asks if he's the wizard who disappeared after helping with the canal raid, and if he's also the same freak who goes by the name Psychopath. Juyeon, however, tries to resist, coming up with an excuse that he didn't hear well and didn't understand what Hyeji said. As the trio walks through the D-class field spider hole, the lady stays persistent, even offering to keep his secret to herself, pointing out that she works in the same industry. Juyeon wipes the sweat from his forehead, realizing he can no longer hide the secret, and asks the lady not to share it with anyone else. After she confirms her promise, she comments that it all makes sense now, noting that he seems to have more magic than her. Our boy quickly explains that it's all about the gear bonuses. Hyeji then asks him about the skill book he uses for buffs and healing. Her brother stops them both, pointing out that this dungeon appears to be a high-level D field, with tons of monsters lurking around. He tells the two of them to stop fooling around and get serious. Juyeon unsheathes his fire flame sword and jumps in, declaring that he'll pave the way. The sight of his sword leaves Hyeji speechless, and she wonders if Juyeon is also a magic sword user. Being the excuse master he is, Juyeon quickly comes up with another one of his lame excuses, explaining that he couldn't afford a staff and, given his magic power stat, this sword is better than having nothing. Juyeon then gets serious, deciding to switch from fire to ice spear. As a skill master, he has the ability to use all kinds of skills, and he takes full advantage of that, testing out the ice spear. On top of that, his skill master status lets him combine various abilities, so he pairs his positioning skill with the ice spear. This combination imbues the icicles with poison, and they strike down a fair number of spiders. Our boy then activates his catalyst skills, which amplify the effects of poison, turning it into critical poison once the stack reaches 3. Although not as powerful, this ice magic isn't half bad, and Juyeon realizes he can use it to avoid being caught. Hyeji can't believe her eyes and asks Juyeon if he wasn't a fire mage just a minute ago. Juyeon, however, doesn't give her a proper reply. Later, the trio is sitting in a cafe enjoying their meal, while Juyeon sits there looking gloomy. He had wanted to run away as soon as the hunt finished. His mind drifts back to what happened in the dungeon. There, he had dealt a ton of damage to the boss monster with a single shot, and ended up absorbing all the soul of the field boss, the queen spider. Because of this, Hyeji and her brother got nothing, leaving him with no choice but to stick around with the siblings for a meal. Juyeon tries to push the thoughts from his mind as he takes a sip of his drink, but the maniac girl interrupts with a proposal. She points out that monsters aren't the only threat in the field, mentioning how PvP often erupts between different parties or groups. She goes on about a few other things before tossing a contract his way. When Juyeon asks for confirmation, she explains that reliable users are hard to come by in the industry, and now that they share a secret, things have changed. She pulls out all the stops to get him to sign the contract, even offering him a free office tel, fully stocked with every luxury a man could possibly want. Juyeon, after glancing at the contract, comments that the conditions are too good for him to even consider rejecting it, and as a result, he ends up signing it. Afterwards, the persistent woman hands him a debit card, telling him he can buy whatever he needs with it. She also assures him that she'll take care of the money he earns from field hunts. Hyeji then asks him if he needs any more explanation, to which Juyeon shakes his head, signaling no. He acts like a child whose every wish has somehow been granted. After that, he heads out hunting with Hyeji, and this time, he finds the hunting easier than ever before. On top of that, he gets a bit shy, realizing just how cute his manager is. He no longer envies his role model, and now that he has the skill, he sees that life has been working out pretty well for him. He does some thinking and wonders if using Fireball along with Blood Combat X would create a powerful attack. Excited by the idea, he gets pumped up and rushes to his new manager, asking her to get ready to head over to the field. The next day, Hyeji's brother eyes her with suspicion as she looks completely mad in love, and asks if she really trusts Juyeon enough to tackle a C-rank field with just 3 people. She shrugs without a care and says they've been wanting to do one for a while, but he reminds her that the recommended level is far above anything they can handle. Right then, our boy, who is a level 15 scrub, shows up and tells him not to worry. The big guy doesn't hesitate to point out that Juyeon is clearly the weakest one there, and that an incomplete party makes the field even harder. But our boy just replies that he's got it covered since he trusts his broken blood frenzy skill to carry them through without a hitch. Inside the C-rank dungeon known for its sneaky plant monsters that jump out when least expected, most people bring at least 2 wide-range damage dealers just to survive. But this party has something else. Juyeon throws out a fireball and lights up the wood monsters without blinking, which makes the siblings stare in disbelief as he roasts the enemies like it's nothing. With his usual loser face, Juyeon is confident since his trait pushes his fire magic beyond the limit, and his plan to chain together all the busted skills he copied works perfectly. He keeps unleashing explosive waves of fire, wiping out the monsters in massive bursts just to flex how absurdly overpowered he is. Hyeji's brother keeps watching our boy as he laughs to himself like some kind of creep, and Hyeji can only stare at him with that same disappointed face while he nearly soils himself mid-killing spree, acting like he's the coolest guy on the planet. While he is completely absorbed in messing around with his fire spells, a discount James Bond type stands at a distance with eyes fixed on him. It seems that the guy is live-streaming everything to a screen somewhere and calmly reports to his boss that he's got eyes on the target. Turns out the man watching through the stream is the actual raid boss himself, and the moment he spots the guy who messed with him, a wicked grin starts spreading across his face like he's waited forever for this. Meanwhile, Juyeon keeps steam-roasting monsters left and right, leaving behind shiny loot piles like a trail of broken dreams. Walking over the corpses of his enemies without a care, he casually scoops up the drops and laughs to himself, amazed at how fast his level keeps shooting up. Out of nowhere, he notices a silvery shiny thing on the ground and yanks it out with a big grin, not even checking if it's an item or just trash. But the vibe flips fast as he realizes he's holding what looks like human remains and ends up shrieking like a little girl so loudly that his voice practically bounces all the way to Hyeji and her brother. Watching him freak out like that, the two rush over and ask if he's alright, and he quickly explains there's a whole corpse here and maybe he accidentally unalived someone. Taking a closer look though, Hyeji goes full Sherlock Holmes and tells him to chill because the skeleton looks way too clean to be fresh. She figures it's probably a user who got looted clean since there's no armor or weapons left behind. After saying that, she casually suggests they wrap things up and get out of there fast, and her laid-back attitude completely throws Juyeon off. When he looks at her all confused, she explains that murder inside dungeons happens all the time, and the worst part is that no one can ever truly prove it. Surprised by how much she seems to know about this stuff, He straight up asks if she's ever been attacked like that before. She flashes a grin and says she not only lived through it once, but that the guy who tried it was actually from her own party. Back when they were out hunting together, the guy suddenly jumped her from behind trying to steal that special thing, and unlike monsters, it's nearly impossible to tell when a human teammate decides to turn on you and rob you blind. Trying to shake off the tension, she jokes about how hot she is, and says the guy was probably after something a little more personal than just her gear, then casually admits that it was actually her first time ever unaliving someone. Hyeji's brother just stares at her in silence as she shrugs with a smile and jokes that creeps like that deserve to get roasted, so it honestly didn't bother her much when it happened. At the end of it all, she tells Juyeon to keep one eye open when he sleeps, because there are way too many crazies out there, and says he should lean on her handsome brother for backup, completely unaware that Juyeon's physical stats leave her brother in the dust. With a smug look on his face, Juyeon boasts that he wouldn't go down to anything less scary than Hanyul, and she chuckles while giving him credit for at least having the guts to say that. Right as she says she's being serious though, a tiny pheromone bomb suddenly drops near their feet, and lets out a puff of intoxicating gas that instantly leaves all three of them wobbly and weak in the knees. Right after that, a swarm of terrifying tree monsters starts closing in, so Shield Bro jumps forward to protect the group like a proper tank. But fearless as ever, Juyeon completely ignores him and charges straight at the monsters head-on like a total boss, shouting that he's got this under control. What he doesn't know is that budget James Bond already has his crossbow locked in, with a bolt lined up that's practically got Juyeon's name on it. Not long after, the bolt fires and our hero's spidey sense kicks in just as it makes contact, but instead of piercing him, the thick steel arrow hilariously bounces off his skin like it just hit a brick wall. As the siblings scream in panic, Juyeon stares at the failed assassination attempt and bursts into laughter, mocking his would-be hitman for thinking he could take down his rock-solid body with such a pathetic excuse for a weapon. That laugh doesn't last though, as a nasty combo of stun, slow, and pain debuffs hits him all at once and shuts him down fast. Dropping to his knees, he groans in pain while the siblings stand frozen, watching him collapse in absolute agony, and the shady guy in the distance starts grinning wide, savoring the moment he's been waiting for all this time. Juyeon gets slammed into the ground, and Kim Hyeji rushes to help him, casting Fire Spear to drive the monster back. It burns to a crisp. But more monsters start charging in, making it hard for her to fend them off while also trying to protect Juyeon. She knows she has to make a quick decision. Suddenly, she tells her brother to clear a path while he lifts the deadweight Juyeon over his shoulder. Without wasting time, the two of them fight through the swarm of monsters, dodging explosions and pushing past all odds just to get out safely. That's when the blonde dude blocks their way, asking where they think they're going. He mocks them for trying to run without even putting up a fight. Hyeji's brother demands to know who they are. It's obvious they've got business with Juyeon, and they tell him to drop the guy and get the hell out of there. The tension on the field spikes, but Kim Hyeji isn't backing down. She hurls another fire spear to keep the enemies at bay, firmly refusing to give up Juyeon. But blonde dude swats the attack away like it's nothing, leaving her stunned. That's when it hits her. He was there during the canal raid. Blonde dude smirks, calling her pretty but clueless, a total bonehead. Since they won't listen, he decides they all have to die and tells his crew to blow it up. A pink smoke bursts out, exposing nearby monsters. Blonde dude gloats about how they can't just keep using pheromone bombs too often. Now, waves of monsters start charging at the trio, but that doesn't stop them from fighting back. In the middle of it all, Juyeon, still unconscious, feels a deep pain. His body refuses to move and his skin burns like fire. His mind's in a fog, wondering if this is how he dies, with no clue what's even happening around him. Right then, Juyeon's eyes snap open to a horrific sight. Kim Hyeji and Hyeji's brother have completely wiped out the swarm of monsters, but they're both covered in heavy wounds. Juyeon can't make sense of it and barely manages to ask why they would go so far just for him. His mind flashes back to when Kim Hyeji told him to hide behind Hyeji's brother if things got dangerous. As Kim Hyeji notices him finally waking up, she asks if he's able to walk. But Juyeon, brushing that off, instead makes a shameless request. He asks them to keep all this a secret. Blonde dude sarcastically praises how well they managed to hold their ground while dragging around that good-for-nothing jerk, Juyeon. He smugly says it won't hurt at all compared to what's coming next. Suddenly, Juyeon stands back up, surprising Kim Hyeji, who had no idea he still had any strength left. Blonde dude eyes his battered body and mocks him, certain that it must hurt like hell. Juyeon doesn't deny it. He straight up admits it hurts like crazy. But that creep is already planning to tear his flesh apart and leave his bones to rot. Just then, Juyeon snaps his fingers, and blonde dude laughs, thinking they're ready for his fireball with the barrier they set up. But Juyeon casually asks if they're really sure about that. Out of nowhere, he unleashes a barrage of spells into the air, and they definitely don't look like fireballs. That's when Blonde Dude starts to suspect that Juyeon might be the one who took Muhammad's ring. Right then and there, Juyeon casts Meteor Rain, and Blonde Dude panics, thinking this could wipe them all out, even his own squad. But Juyeon doesn't hesitate. He fires off a flurry of spells like he's just getting started. The ground is wrecked with huge circular cracks and smashed up holes. The trio finally gets a breather, and Juyeon drops to the ground, panting hard after barely surviving thanks to a last-second teleport. Turns out, just past midnight, Juyeon had been setting his 4 skill slots. He had copied Fireball Explosion into Blood Combat, which now leaves him with 1 slot open. Then he ends up watching a video of a guy who fired an arrow at a bald man and teleported right after. It wasn't really about confidence. It just felt like the smart thing to do, like having insurance. Turns out, teleport is a unique trait that lets you mark a target, and when you cast a skill, you can move along with that marked target. Juyeon basically hit the jackpot with mass teleport. He can't believe he even got some bonus perks too. Feels like his lucky day, so of course he breaks into a happy dance. Back in the present, Juyeon promises to explain everything later. With things settled, Kim Hyeji is already ready to scoop up the loot those idiots left behind. Meanwhile, the people on the ground are left speechless, jaws dropped at the sight of the massive cracks and pits scattered across the area. Someone even jokes that Muhammad must have charged through here. Juyeon may have saved himself big time, but he knows it won't be long before someone tracks him down. On the bright side, he's just hit level 20 and unlocked his sub-traits. The skill storage is now officially activated. Later on, Kim Hyeji and Hyeji's brother listen as Juyeon explains what Skillmaster is all about. He describes it as an X-class skill that allows him to copy other skills. That's when everything starts to make sense. They finally realize that Juyeon's odd healing, high damage, and buffs all come from copied abilities. Kim Hyeji asks if he can copy skills from her or her brother. Juyeon says it's possible, but points out that being a tank without gear doesn't exactly work well. Kim Hyeji's eyes light up at the thought of Juyeon's insane potential, wondering just how far he can go. Juyeon, feeling awkward, says the details are top secret. Hyeji's brother brings them back to the real issue and asks if Juyeon has any clue who attacked them. Juyeon guesses it's the same group from the Canal Raid, while Kim Hyeji's gut says they're definitely from the Raider Guild. To break it down, Kim Hyeji shares the ongoing rumors about a group called the Raider Guild, known for collecting boss items. Juyeon admits he's crossed paths with them before. Kim Hyeji then opens up about her own past, revealing that she was once offered a spot in their ranks, but only if she agreed to use their boss items. Juyeon wonders what the connection is with the PK group. She explains how the attackers were carrying a stash of boss-tier items, which are rare with low drop rates, making it nearly impossible for one group to gather them all. Kim Hyeji believes everything is connected, like an organization with roots and branches stretching across the world. To top it all off, their leader is still a mystery, and now that Juyeon has made enemies like this, he knows he has to be extra careful. Later, while resting, Juyeon reflects on everything he's stirred up lately. With all the incidents piling up, he feels like his identity is close to being exposed, and that's one of his biggest worries. He knows he has to get stronger before it reaches that point. Right now, he's relying on just one skill. Thankfully, his status window shows a solid amount of skill points, around 30,000, all earned through daily quests. No matter what comes up that makes it hard to do daily quests, Juyeon makes sure to steadily level up his skill points. He spends 5,000 points to level up a unique subtrait called Passive Income to level 4, which gives him 1,000 skill points every 24 hours. Honestly, he just likes the idea of points stacking up while he's lying down doing nothing. As for the remaining points, he decides to reward the skill that helped him the most out in the field. So, he invests in Trait Grant, leveling it up to 3. Now any copied skill gets 2 unique traits, and he can choose one to apply. Even a grade E trait gives a nice boost in efficiency, and a grade D trait will be even better. Then Juyeon checks out the highlights of skill storage. Using 1 copy count lets him store a skill, and blue grade effects are better than green grade effects. However, once a copy count is used, it doesn't recharge automatically. If he had known that earlier, he would have saved Blood Combat permanently. Copying from videos only saves the original grade, and that doesn't change. Still, Juyeon knows exactly which skill he wants to store, and that's Resistance to Change. Once copied, he gets unlimited use of it. Now he's got Resistance to Change, Radiant Power, and Blood Combat on his list. He plans to keep rolling until the skills rank up through copy. He also decides to take a few days of well-earned rest, but that plan doesn't last long. Muhammad catches up with the trio, and Juyeon has no idea why he's here. His retreat time gets cut short by this surprise visit, and it turns out Muhammad Al came looking for him. Muhammad mentions how Juyeon's psycho antics have become pretty popular and stirred things up, but they've handled it, so no need to worry. Kim Hyeji pushes for the real reason behind the visit. Muhammad says he wants their thoughts, confirming that the attackers are part of a global-scale group, the Raider Guild, and he's already at war with them. That's how he got his hands on some intel. The Raider Guild is currently gathering at the Ganjiam Resort ski field to search for a hidden treasure left behind by their leader. He can't help directly, though, because his movements attract too much attention, which makes this mission extra risky. His secretary cuts the meeting short, and Muhammad leaves the choice up to them, if they wish to stay safe or go wipe out the enemy. Two teams have lined up facing each other when suddenly, out of nowhere, a hand pops out. It turns out to be a gorgeous lady, and she's holding what looks like the tail of the red dragon. In a flash, the man excitedly welcomes Miss Lin Xiaoling, but instead of a greeting, she flicks his forehead with a playful smirk, sending him flying like a rocket straight into the wall. She casually calls him a dumbass and tells him his intel was way off. Apparently, the former guildmaster is dead, which makes her the new head of the Raider Guild. Right then and there, everyone bows to Lin Xiaoling, with no other option left on the menu. From now on, she prefers to be called their boss and clears up all the confusion on the spot. And just like that, Lin Xiaoling becomes the Raider Guild leader. From then on, she tells the lackeys that the monster patterns have been tracked up to the 20th floor and leaves them to sort through the monster materials. She also asks what's going on with the old man's faction. That's when she hears that 98% of the old followers have been wiped out, and the rest will be dealt with soon. She likes the sound of that and orders them to retrieve the old man's untouched treasure sitting idle in Korea. Lin Xiaoling makes it clear that the days of powerless monkeys getting rich are over. This is the era of superpowers, and anyone bold enough to challenge the boss and rule the special field must earn their power, and the throne belongs to her alone. Yu Juyan is having the time of his life at Ganjiam Ski Resort for the first time ever, even though it's far from a fun zone thanks to the monsters roaming around. The snow stays frozen all year, and the constant blizzards and icy roads make it hard to move, which has hurt the place's reputation. Kim Hyeji just wants to get the job done so they can enjoy it a little, while the Hyeji's brother thinks it's foolish that only 3 of them came. Kim Hyeji suggests heading back to the Raider Guild and casually reveals that she sold the boss item under her name when they disposed of it, making her a target just like Juyan. Hyeji's brother is clearly annoyed that they're the ones handling things. But Kim Hyeji tells him to relax, reminding him they're 3 veterans who've been through plenty of crap. Juyan is shocked she called him a veteran, but she backs it up by pointing out how he survived both the boss raid and the PK group attack, saying that earns him a better title. As they move toward the field, she leads the way, only to have members of the Enjoy Guild block them off with threats of death. Kim Hyeji asks if they're with the User Association or have any right to claim an open field, but the bonehead tells her to get the hell out, saying the area is under their control. That ticks off Juyan, who thinks that even if he's not a hero, he should at least protect what matters to him. The bonehead mocks Kim Hyeji, telling her to come hug it out and promises to soothe her gently, which hits a nerve. Hyeji's brother had had enough, and Juyan loads a fireball in his hand, furious that the jerk dared to point a sword at him, wishing he had the strength to break it. The fireball catches everyone's attention, and they quickly realize who he is, the infamous Psycho, backed by 2 rogue veterans and a tank. Juyan, not planning to sit around, decides it's time to show what real control looks like. The Enjoy Guild goons start shaking, mumbling that their guild came in first, but Juyan doesn't care. He hurls the fireball straight at them, catching them off guard. They can't believe the crazy Psycho actually threw it. Juyan glares at them, warning that if they ever come at him again, they're as good as dead. Kim Hyeji and Hyeji's brother both notice how different he looks. Sharp, confident, and straight-up dominant. But just as they say it out loud, Juyan's usual goofy self kicks back in. Even he feels weird about making threats, joking that blackmail might be more his style. Inside the field, monsters start swarming the Enjoy Guild members, who've been profiting by controlling the area. Suddenly, a fireball out of nowhere scares the hell out of them. A man in a white cloak steps in and introduces himself as a hunter. The Enjoy Guild's jerk claims the area is off-limits to outsiders, saying it's already packed with level 40s and suggests checking other fields. But the man in white wants to see who actually gets pushed out. His group storms the field, cutting down enemies and carving their own path forward. Green Hood apologizes for not realizing how the Enjoy Guild was running the place. The man in white orders them to split into 2 teams to search and eliminate any threats without interruption. His goal is to reach the deepest and highest part of the field to find the imitation bracelet. Juyan and Kim Hyeji are over the moon, totally hyped to be at the ski resort. Meanwhile, Hyeji's brother stays grounded and reminds them to focus on the real issue. He lays out the main point that the Raider Guild isn't just some random group of amateurs, and if they want to get ahead of whatever's coming, they'll need to hit first with a preemptive strike. Moreover, they still have no clear way to tell the difference between the Enjoy Guild and the Raider Guild. That's when Juyan points out that the Raider Guild is all about treasure hunting and wouldn't care much about monster experience points. That little detail sparks a mischievous idea in Juyan's head, and a sly grin starts to form on his face. Meanwhile, at the ski resort, someone tosses a pheromone bomb, and the whole area fills with thick pink smoke, catching everyone off guard. In no time, a wave of monsters starts rushing in, charging straight at the people like an unstoppable tide. On the other side, Ju Yan and the others witness the chaotic scene unfold. Watching the majestic yet terrifying sight from a distance, Ju Yan picks up on the idea right away, remembering how those rascals once used the pheromone bomb skill on them. And now he's pretty sure it must suck to be on the receiving end this time. He watches the chaos unfold with a smug look, feeling just a little bit satisfied. Still, Hyeji's brother points out that there's no solid way to confirm if they're actually the raiders. But Juyan explains it like he's teaching the big guy a lesson. If those fools downstairs don't run from a swarm of monsters and still hold their ground, then it can only mean one thing. He breaks it down. Whether they're a party focused on farming experience or chasing something important enough to take the risk. Kim Hyeji adds that judging by how they're using their skills, each one of them is way above the recommended level for this area. Hyeji's brother finally gets it. If it's not about experience points, then something else is definitely keeping them there. Knowing their goal isn't monsters, they decide to follow them and throw in a little bonus before leaving. So, Juyan tosses a bomb into the mix, while Kim Hyeji quietly wonders if Juyan had always been like this or if something about him has changed. Meanwhile, Green Hood asks for the location on the map, heading straight into the cave. Juyan hits the jackpot when his scheme actually works to locate the Raider Guild's group of freaks. Turns out, Juyan's been storing something special just for moments like this. But amidst all this, he feels something off. Planning a massive ambush for the people who tried to kill him, he doesn't understand why he feels so calm. Suddenly, Kim Hyeji checks in to see if he's all right. Juyan eases her worries, knowing they can't afford to waste time being lost in thought. Afterward, he realizes he never expected monsters to have such a knack for showing up uninvited. Volunteering for recon and hiding here turned out to be a great choice. His lackey agrees, noting there were too many people at the start to carry just one item. No doubt the mobs got arrested. All of a sudden, everyone's caught off guard by a surprise crossbow attack. Arrows fly through the air, and a guy demands to know who they are, frustrated because even though he dodged, he still got hit. Turns out, Juyan shot him with the Bow of Weakening, a weapon that applies slow and pain for the next 3 minutes, and even stuns the target for 1 minute if their health drops to 30 or below. Juyan figures this guy's health is still above 30, but he's more than happy to let him feel the debuffs now, planning to beat him down and finish him off once his health hits 0. This dude is freaking out, begging Juyan to stop, but that's not happening. Afterward, Green Hood's squad checks in with the recon team, asking if there are any problems, but they report losing contact with the folks at the entrance, like someone attacked them out of nowhere. So, Green Hood takes charge, alerting everyone to protect the treasure at all costs. Just as they rush in, Kim Hyeji unleashes Firestorm, possibly torching everything near her. Then out of nowhere, the whole place blows up and thunder strikes come crashing down, hitting the blonde dude specifically. Just then, someone screams that the tanker has been neutralized, and Green Hood immediately orders his men to take down the mages before the paralysis wears off. Even so, he's still sending his squad in to deal with the situation. With no tanker left, Juyan steps up to show they're not just some pushovers. Out of the blue, he pushes in more power, deciding to break his limits by calling on Radiant Power. Suddenly, a blue window pops up to apply a random buff, boosting his stats like crazy. Green Hood finds Juyan's constant use of Fireball pretty foolish and is damn sure that Juyan is nothing in front of his shield, thinking a rank E move won't cut it. But Juyan doesn't let him finish and blasts him mid-sentence, sending his lackeys flying. That giant fireball has everyone freaking out. Green Hood, yanked away, comes to his senses and realizes this definitely isn't 95% reduced damage. Meanwhile, Juyan casually thanks the dumbasses for letting them have all the treasure. That's when he unleashes an explosion that bursts out like fireworks. At the same time, the man in white instructs his men to sort things out here and regroup with the team at the summit. But suddenly, he hears a massive explosion in the distance and immediately knows something's wrong. Without wasting a second, he commands everyone to quit all operations and head straight to the summit right away.